Hey y'all, good afternoon. My name is Rosendo Pili from Major League Hacking. I just wanted to jump on the stream and let y'all know that we are going to have a great guest today do a presentation on career opportunities and just tech opportunities in general through the U.S. Air Force. His name is Technical Sergeant Jason Massard, and he is currently working with cyber warfare operations at the U.S. Air Force. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and add him to the stream so y'all can go ahead and start listening to what he has to say. How's it going, Technical Sergeant? I'm going to go ahead and drop off.
Hey. Hello, everyone. My name is Technical Sergeant Massard. I have been in the Air Force for almost 10 years now, and my current job is an instructor of cyber warfare operations here at Keesler Air Force Base in Mississippi. I've been in the Air Force, like I said, for almost 10 years, and I have a little bit of experience both on the traditional IT side, but the last couple of years I've spent more so on the cyber warfare side. Today's presentation, I'm going to cover a little bit about myself, my background when I first started in the Air Force, and into what I do now, and kind of touch on a couple of subjects that might interest a lot of you with regards to cyber warfare. So we can begin the slideshow. I'll go over what we're going to talk about today. Also, feel free at any point, throw your questions in the chat. There is a wonderful team working behind the scenes to throw anything up as it comes in. There is time at the end dedicated to any questions that you might not want to ask right away, or if there's something I did not cover. Also, full disclosure, there are certain things that I will touch on or touch around, but I can't talk about specific things if it dives into the classified, if it dives into a certain level of classification. And then I will also answer a lot of questions. I might answer a lot of questions with, it depends. Anything with cyber always depends. There's never an exact answer sometimes. So apologies ahead of time. So again, my name is Technical Sergeant Jason Massard, and this presentation is on cyber warfare operations. The Air Force specialty code is 1B4X1. Next slide. Oh, looks like we have a couple of comments already. So a brief overview. We're going to go over my introduction, touch on the United States Cyber Command, the 333rd Training Squadron where I work at, and then the defensive cyber operations and offensive cyber operations aspect of what encompasses cyber warfare. Next slide. So I joined in 2012. I was a cyber transport systems apprentice. The career field Air Force specialty code for that is 3D1X2. Traditionally, I was trained on cryptography, telephony, routing and switching, long haul, and in-house short communication infrastructure. I learned everything from creating and terminating fiber, as well as Cat5 cables, Cat6. I did a lot of client systems communication or client systems work at my first assignment. I worked for the RQ-4 Global Hawk, which is a remotely piloted aircraft. Cool thing about that mission, I wasn't in a traditional communication support role. I was actually on an operations floor. The missions that we did were supporting intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance worldwide. It was really cool to be a part of those missions and see the change that we're doing in the world. And as a traditional comm guy, I got to learn about my impact, though it seemed small at the time, just change this port or update this network configuration, seeing how it affected the warfighters or it affected the missions that we flew as the Global Hawk unit. It really helped me feel like I was making a large impact. In 2017, I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into cybersecurity, so I retrained into the 1 Bravo 4 career field. I came through the schoolhouse here at Keesler, and I was assigned defensive cyber operations. And I worked that for about 4 years doing missions, both blue team and a little bit of purple team sprinkled in. And then in this recent year, I volunteered to come back to be an instructor. I'll touch on it a little bit later. The Air Force has done a lot to get me a lot of experience, as well as send me to a lot of training to attend different security conferences and work on certifications to gain the knowledge I need to be an expert in my career field. And I decided that while I still have it fresh in my head, I want to teach the next generation of operators so that way they can take it and put their own spin and make the career field excel. Next slide. So that was a little bit about myself, and I want to touch on briefly the United States Cyber Command, or US Cybercom. The reason being is because they are the end-all be-all for all things cyber with the Department of Defense. My boss's 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 boss is General Nakasone, and he's the current commander of US Cybercom. And the three main focus areas of this Cyber Command is to defend the Department of Defense infrastructure networks, whether that's being the technicians that build it or the server administrators that maintain any configurations, or if it's the blue team, the defensive cyber guys going in and securing it from active persistent threats. That's what we are. That's our main focus, is to defend. The next main focus area is to support the warfighting combatant commander worldwide, whether it's special operations, whether it's mobility, whatever the case may be. Everything at some point requires cyber support or cyber effects. And if there is a need for our operators to perform effects or to protect against effects, we're on call and we're tasked to support that warfighting combatant commander. And lastly, strengthening our nation's ability to withstand and respond to a cyber attack. This is encompassing a lot of not just our active duty personnel, but our Guard and Reserve and our civilian corps as well. There are lots of attacks coming from all fronts, internal and external, and it's amazing the amount of work that goes into defending our nation from cyber attacks on a daily basis, or being able to respond to certain attacks. The Colonial Pipeline hack that happened recently, a lot of people that did the report writing and did the forensics on that came through our schoolhouse at some point. I wasn't their instructor. I can't take credit for that, but we have Air Force officers, Air Force enlisted. We have people that retired, people that served or are doing the Guard Reserve duty that are actively working multiple fronts to strengthen our nation's ability to withstand and respond to cyber attack. More specifically, the Air Force's role in that, we have a dedicated Air Force portion that is all things cyber, and that is AF Cyber, or Air Force's Cyber, and we fall under the 16th Air Force. What's amazing about this is we paired up with the intelligence numbered Air Force, so that way we can go hand in hand. It's not just go do things cyber or find bad. We now rely on and work with our intelligence partners that are able to have these folders or have these profiles for these threats, for these terrorists, for these anything bad. We're able to just go do things with the intelligence to back it up. So I know where to look when I'm trying to find persistence. I know where to go to stop a specific technique. So that kind of is what our role is in the Air Force under the all-encompassing US Cybercom. Do we have any questions so far regarding this? I know it's a little bit high level, and I'm going to start getting a little bit more specific shortly. If not, next slide. So my schoolhouse, the 333rd Training Squadron, we are the start of Air Force cyber warfare. Our officers in Air Force cyber and our enlisted in Air Force cyber warfare come through this schoolhouse to train up and go do cyber, go do awesome things in cyber and to stop bad guys in cyber. Our mission is to train joint force capable cyber airmen to win our nation's wars. Everything that has an IP address is hackable. Anything that you thought is secured or hardened, it connects to computers somehow. There's a way to get malware on everything. There's a way to find bad when bad things are hiding. So if you are interested in joining the Air Force, and if you come through the Air Force Cyber Warfare Operations course, the training overview is going to be just briefly covering these three areas. You're going to go through information technology fundamentals, where you understand the basics of security, cryptography, computer and network components. A lot of our cyber AFSCs, or Air Force Specialty Codes, go through IT fundamentals because that is a good baseline. Whether you're going to be a radio troop, where you're going to be a cable dog, where you're going to be anything, you go through IT fundamentals to understand the basics of what your role is going to be. Next, you go through security or certification training through CompTIA. Security Plus is an amazing industry certification. It's more so neutral. A lot of different companies, whether it's military or private sector, they see that as a great starting security certification so that you can get your foot in the door as a security specialist. Now, it's not the top most level certification, and the reason why you get it when you go through your initial training is because it is tough and it does set you apart from others, but it is, again, that stepping stone, right? You get Security Plus, and then it opens the door for, all right, cool, now you can specialize in the different areas that you want to go to in cyber. Finally, you come through the Air Force, you come through our schoolhouse, and I'll be your instructor for one of these blocks. In cyber warfare operations, we cover everything from Windows operating systems to Linux operating systems to understanding networking. Be surprised how much math goes into subnetting. And then we cover offensive and defensive cyber operations, or OCO and DCO. Now, we throw a little bit of scripting in there as well. And at the schoolhouse, we try to train you to the starting level, the beginner/intermediate level. We have people that come through that are from different career fields, whether it's security forces, intelligence, maintenance, medical. We have all types of people who have signed contracts for a specific career field, and at a certain point, they want to retrain into cyber warfare. We have a lot of traditional communication support troops that come through, and having that background in cyber helps, but it's not the only requirement. We have a lot of people who will go get their degrees or have a couple of certifications on their own time, and their drive is what helps them pass through the schoolhouse. Excuse me. Also, that is our squadron patch. We are the Mad Ducks. I don't know the history off the top of my head, but I definitely like to paraphrase the fact that a duck is cute, but it can also attack from land, air, and sea. So keep that in mind when it comes to cyber. Everything's not what it seems. Next slide. So defensive cyber operations. This is my bread and butter because this is where I have essentially worked in that realm for the last 4 years, and this is what I am currently teaching. So to define defensive cyber operations, it is passive and active cyberspace operations intended to preserve the ability to utilize friendly cyberspace capabilities and protect data. It is a huge definition to say either the traditional blue team. However, there's a lot that encompasses it. There's reverse engineering, there's malware analysis, threat hunting, incident response and handling, vulnerability assessment. It's a lot. And the way that we have it structured is we have our students learn both offensive and defensive, because anyone can just be a script kiddie. Anyone can just pick up Kali and watch a couple of YouTube videos and learn how to run a couple of exploits. But understanding where you're affecting that system or how your persistence is being run, that's where the defensive side is. How do you find that stuff once it's been exploited? Or if you have to do some malware or malware analysis on a system that was compromised. Where do you find in the registry, or where do you find in the hidden files, or where do you find in the binary of everything where was bad? How can you put together those breadcrumbs? How can you follow the breadcrumbs to follow the path and paint the full picture of what happened? Fortunately, the GIF isn't auto playing, but the scene from The Matrix where Neo is just, he is the one, and he completely is just blocking every attack with Agent Smith. The best part about being defensive cyber is not all the time. The best part about being defensive cyber is finding the source code, or making a threat have to burn a tool. So if you're the actor, if you are the threat, and let's say that you're backed by a nation state, and you've spent millions and millions of dollars to have this one tool run this one exploit that you've been working on several months, you've been doing recon, and you slip up somehow, or you're just doing what you're supposed to do, but I'm better at finding. You run your attack, you have your malware, but I've captured every single step. I've learned everything that you've done, and I've written the report to share in the intel community. So next time you try to leverage that box, you know your persistence is gone. Next time you're trying to run the exploit, it's already been patched. Next time that you try to just do anything in a different area, we already know that you're coming. So millions and millions of dollars gone because I was the guy that found it. And that's why there's with cyber, there's always two sides to that coin. There's the red side and the blue side. I was fortunate enough to start with the blue side. I've done a lot of things to kind of touch on the different areas that are on the slide, but my main role at my last unit was to perform threat hunting. We would either go to a base that has intelligence that a threat might be there, or we might come through and sweep after an attack has already been done. So my job was to just find wherever anything happened and report it. And a couple of times we actually acted more so as purple team. So we trained their local defenders to identify how an attack happens. We set up our tools to emulate certain types of cyber threats, and we set up our tools to capture everything that was going on, and we trained the local defenders to, hey, when this thing happens, this is how it's going to look. These alerts are going to go off. These are the security logs that you need to check. This is the information that you need to ingest. We have people that are able to look at just hex from a packet capture and identify everything that's going on, from the headers to what commands were sent across to whatever files were downloaded. We have people who are really good at what they do because they've had lots of practice. I'm going to answer a question real quick. All right. Let's see. So with your cyber training, have you ever participated in any hackathons as a method of training? Yes, I have. So thank you, Amari, 7027. So we participated in a lot of Capture the Flag events. We get invited out to Black Hat DEF CON a lot. We still have to pay our tickets, but we sign up for different SANS security weekends. We apply to a lot of these events, and the Air Force, like within AF Cyber, we essentially have trials sometimes to see who is the best cyber team to go up against for these events. A lot of times we're going up against Army's Red Team. We've worked with Navy Fleet Cyber. So a lot of the things that we do are DoD challenges. A lot of NSA cyber challenges are open to all types of teams. I personally have not been on any of those teams that have competed at that level. But internally, we've done a lot of stuff. We participate in a lot of the oh man, what is it? I think it's KringleCon. I remember the last one we participated in. Just capture flag events that happen year round. And I think we had a team that tried to hack a Tesla at one of the DEF CONs. So yeah, with the training that we go through, it gives people the confidence and the basic skill set to go deeper into the different areas of cyber. I myself, I'm not a great programmer, but I am amazing at identifying. I'm amazing at identifying trends and tactics and techniques and procedures. So I understand how malware moves, but we have team members who are able to write malware. It's awesome. So yeah, specifically, I know Major League Hacking has their own hackathon events, and I just learned about this organization not too long ago, and I'm definitely going to throw this information out to a lot of my coworkers and my colleagues to throw their names in the hat. We have a lot of people who also do a program called Cyber Patriot, where they volunteer their time to essentially mentor and coach a high school cyber team. And a lot of those teams go on to win awards at national level, basic hacking or program writing or just something. They have different areas that they compete in, and we have members who volunteer. And essentially the reason why I'm actually here as well. With Major League Hacking, I love that they are actively doing something to progress the next generation of hackers. Because I didn't have this when I was in high school. I had a basic typing class. I had a Windows Excel or Microsoft Excel like how-to class, and then I think I had MySpace back in the day, so I messed around with HTML, but I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't get good until the past 4 years, and I'm training people who have been programming for their entire lives. So this is all for you, and I highly encourage as many hackathons you can get part of, as many languages that you can learn in coding, as many different nifty tools that you can find to do cyber threat emulation or to defend. Like, that would be awesome, because you all are the future of cyber, and I'm just going to be the old fart that forgets things in a couple of years. Old man yelling at traffic. All right. What about the next question? Does the Air Force have any scholarship for service opportunities for computer science? So as far as I know, the traditional ways of joining the Air Force, you can go straight from high school and enlist in the Air Force. You can go to college on an ROTC program, and a lot of the programs that they have is your scholarship through the Air Force, your service commitment to graduate with a specific degree, and then you're commissioned as an officer once you graduate college. There's also the Air Force Academy, which you go to the traditional 4 years as a normal college, and you commission right out of that as an officer. So the scholarship opportunities for joining the Air Force and for specific degrees are tied to going to school or going to a college ROTC program or going to the Air Force Academy. There are probably some more scholarship opportunities, like maybe $1,000 here or there that you use. I'm not aware of that, but I will recommend any questions that I'm not able to answer to contact your local Air Force recruiter. They are the gatekeepers of the information that I haven't seen for a while. So again, I've been here for almost 10 years, and I've been kind of out of the game on the how-tos and what's available to people who are ready to join. Next question. So non-RC routes for college students. So we do have You can enlist with a degree if you want to become an officer with a non-ROTC um, background. Then you can apply for a civilian officer training school. Those programs or that program is a little competitive, and you would have to have essentially like a little bit more background besides your degree in CS or cybersecurity. If you enlist with a degree, that's cool. It helps with getting you into the right career path first. So you can always join the Air Force anytime, regardless of your college experience, and can always finish school while you're in. In fact, like that's one of the things that I did. When I joined the Air Force, I had messed up a little bit in college. I really just lost my focus. And so I joined because I wanted to get into a STEM career field. And while I've been able to finish my bachelor's degree, and I'm going to start my master's shortly. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question. Again, contact your recruiter. As far as the different paths you can take, if you want to come in as an officer, you need a bachelor's degree first. If you are not ROTC or if you're not Academy and you're trying to join, there are different paths you can take, whether it's enlisted or officer. But first step is talking to your recruiter. How long does training as a cyber warfare engineer typically take? So our schoolhouse, it's I would say 4 to 6 months, depending on what your background is when you come in. Currently, our career field is retrain only. So if you go today, talk to your recruiter, sign up, join the Air Force next week, you won't be able to come into my career field immediately. It's retrain only. And the reason why we have that is so that way people have that experience first as an airman, so that way they can get the training and the professionalism and the discipline first at their first assignment before they try to retrain into the Air Force. I'm not familiar on the time frame for a 4-year or a 6-year contract when that window opens for you to retrain. However, your recruiter will have that information. But occasionally, what happens is with the 3D 1X2 schoolhouse, the career field that I used to be, occasionally there will be airmen that go through that schoolhouse that are top performers that show interest in cyber warfare. And on a case-by-case basis, there are interviews essentially to see if they are a good fit to come straight into cyber warfare. So the earliest I would say, if you, let's say, join with a 4-year contract, I assume that you can retrain after about 2 years. So 2 years plus the 4 months of training, depending on whether or not you have Security Plus. So two-ish, 3 years at a minimum before you can get into cyber warfare. But the training never stops. I'm still in SANS courses. I'm still in management courses. I'm still in going to different security conferences. I'm still going to different events to just learn about what's going on out there. So although the schoolhouse teaching you the basics is a short time frame, the work and the learning never stops. It's one of the reasons why I love doing what I do, because I'm a master of none. I'm never an expert on a certain subject because it's constantly changing. So I'm constantly testing myself, and there's new students and new waves of people coming in that are helping me stay on my A game. Correct. Thank you so much. So airforce.com is a great way to start researching the different cyber career fields. Again, cyber warfare operations is not one that you can go into right away, straight out of basic military training. However, it is something that you can retrain into after having a background in a different career field first. The closest I would say is the 1 in 4 career field. That intelligence career field there's a Intel cyber career field that they go through similar training as us, and they have a different role and different mission set when it comes to cyber and intelligence. But they work a lot with us in the NSA realm, and a lot of buildings with no windows, a lot of very secure facilities. So there are different ways to approach cyber, but as far as this career field, there's it's retrain only, with a few caveats every now and then. Before I answer any more questions, I would like to go to the next slide so I can touch on kind of like what everyone might think that Air Force Cyber does. So offensive cyber operations. This is where your cyber effects do things to compromise or to capture, right? They are actions intended to project power by application of force in or through cyberspace. This is through means of persistence, tunneling, remote code execution, exploitation. This is the definition of hacking, right? Everyone wants to be the person that fires the exploit to hack something. Our offensive cyber operators are very skilled at what they do, and they go through a lot of intense training for it. A lot of our stuff is assigned to either the NSA or a couple in-house Air Force units that have their own mission sets and have their own tool sets. The offensive cyber operations, they're really good. I work with a lot of them that have taught me how to be a better defender, to kind of see how malware works, or how to write script a certain way to exploit a system that I didn't know was possible. We're constantly going up against the threats of 0 days and just new types of attacks that we've never seen before, or we're just not prepared for. Our offensive cyber operators are the ones who are taking advantage of those as well to create those effects against our adversaries. And a lot of them go on to either continue to stay in that realm of three-letter agencies, or they go to different red teams to help train us to be better defenders. So it's really cool. This is what I know everyone, the shiny penny of hacking. But remember, there's two sides to the coin. So you can be a hacker and you don't create effects. You can be a hacker to find the bad guys. This is really cool. Again, nice memeage, but it doesn't play through Google Docs. But yeah, everyone has seen some sort of representation on TV or in a movie of like the hacker just going away with the shades, the hoodie, the trench coat, sometimes just the hard Euro bass going on in the background. And there's some truth in a lot of the memes, but essentially, when you come into the Air Force, if you are an Air Force offensive cyber operator, you're not just shooting blindly in the dark. There are exploits that you have to learn how to use. You have to understand the different type of systems that you might encounter. You have to understand how persistence isn't just compromising a password and logging in immediately. You might be waiting months on end before you can exploit a system, or you can have an exploit on a system and have to wait to create the secondary effect weeks, days down the line. So there's a way that you have to understand how to hack, because like I said at the beginning, anyone can just pull up Kali. Anyone can just watch a couple of YouTube videos and figure out how to run Metasploit, and just throw random payloads against a Windows XP system. But there are ways that you have to understand how to do it strategically. And most importantly, it's illegal. So there are laws regarding what you can do in cyberspace. And we teach how, based on whatever title we are under, the effects that we create are specifically under U.S. military code. So that way we are doing everything we can within the bounds of being legal, moral, and ethical. So we're not just hacking our significant others just because we can. You get the training and you sign a lot of non-disclosure agreements that you can't talk about what you did or who you went after, because there's lots of law protecting it. So the thing that separates the everyday script kiddie and an offensive cyber operator is training and discipline. Knowing that you can do something and knowing when to do it are two different things. So being able to strategically create effects to protect our nation is the main role of our offensive cyber operators. I went through some of this training as well. Again, in order to know how to be a good defender, I have to know what I'm attacking from. Same like boxing. You can throw as many haymakers as you want, but if you can't dodge and you can't protect yourself, cover up, or block a punch, or just absorb a blow, are you really good at your job? So as hard of hitters as our offensive cyber operators are, our defensive operators have to be just as good at the game. So one of the things that I've learned with the career field in the past couple of years is everyone's mission is not immediately what it seems. I've gone to different units to find malware, and instead I find source code from lazy contractors that create new vulnerabilities. So while I'm trying to find someone who's been there trying to steal information, I instead see tools being used to bypass security, settings from someone who just doesn't want to follow the rules. And in doing so, we're able to stop potential threats in the future. I will open up for questions right now if anyone has any. Is the cyber operations field going to see a lot of growth in the near future? Yes. Yes, it is. One of the things that I really appreciate about being in this career field is that there are always attackers, and actually, you know what? Let's bring it a little bit closer home. There's always a lazy user. You'd be surprised how many people still save password files on their desktop. You'd be surprised how many people still use lazy encryption when securing certain types of systems. There are lots of lazy people out there with who are in charge of router and switch configs. As long as there's always a layer 8 of the OSI model, which is the user, there's always going to be a need for cyber operations, because there's always going to be something to defend, and there's always going to be something to attack. As far as the threats that face us from the outside, there's constantly new methods of attack every day. There's countries who have been spending lots of money over years to perfect certain tools to attack us in ways that we haven't found yet or are probably not prepared for. I mentioned the Black Hat and DEF CON conferences and the SANS training that I've gone through. It's not just open to Americans. I've probably sat in a class with someone who I've tried to fight off an attack from when in uniform. There's people who their sole purpose is to figure out how we train, so that way they can emulate it and find a way to attack us. So cyber operations is never going away, because the deeper we get into this digital age, everything is going to be attackable. At the last Black Hat conference I went to, it was a couple of years ago, there was a booth on how to attack the Internet of Things, like Google Mesh, Wi-Fi routers, Nest cameras. There's exploits for everything. I was in Best Buy the other day, and I lost count of how many Samsung refrigerators I saw with TVs attached to them. Do you want to be that person that loses their entire life savings because your house was attacked through your toaster? That is a reality that we live in currently, and it's only going to get worse. So cyber operations it's going to grow dramatically, and we need people like you who are starting off high school or starting off just fresh out of college, that even if you understand just the basic concepts, we need fresh minds to start finding things that us old farts are going to forget soon. Let's see, another question. Is it a complicated transition from Canadian Air Force to USAF? I don't know an answer to that. I would say start with visit airforce.com or talk to an Air Force recruiter. So if I do know that we have different services that we can go into. There's different programs, and I don't know what the application process is like. I had a buddy who joined the Australian Air Force, and a couple of people that were back before we had the U.S. Space Force, people that went to Canadian Air Force to work with space. So there's possibilities. I just don't have the exact answer for you. And I would say start with airforce.com. There is an answer out there. I promise you. In one of the scenarios that one of the missions that I went on, I was in the Middle East, and we were at a NATO base that we were working with coalition partners, and I worked with the Canadian Air Force. I worked with Korean Air Force. Like it's a lot of collaboration on this side, especially with cyber, because there's only one language, and that's computers. So I hope you find the answer that you're looking for, and if not, if you're currently in the Canadian Air Force, I hope there's a way that we can work together in the future. Because if you're already in this chat, then it shows that you have the passion to do cool things in cyber. Is my job focused mainly on public sector vulnerabilities, or do I also help private entities with cybersecurity? It depends. Currently, for the past couple of years, I've only been assigned to the Department of Defense networks. However, we have partnered with Guard and Reserve to work on doing incident response or malware analysis from like defensive contracts or something that essentially affected an area that secondary, tertiary effect was a military base. Our Guard and Reserve people are really awesome at what they do because they not only put on the uniform to do cool things in Air Force cyber, but a lot of them are federal technicians or work in the private sector on their own, and they bring those capabilities or the experiences to and from their job. So I have not focused on anything in the public sector, essentially, or the private sector. I've mainly been Department of Defense only, but there are teams that work with that. Again, we have operators that are embedded with various different three-letter agencies. We have people who work with our Office of Special Investigations to kind of backtrack and find bad and investigate network traffic or someone's cyber footprint, or just try to find things. And a lot of that dives into hey, this network connects to the school, and that kind of dips back into the cyber law, right? There is a certain title that we perform our actions under, and sometimes there is a line that we can't cross, and so we pass on to Department of Homeland Security or Department of Justice to take it a step further. So again, roundabout way of saying I haven't, but it does exist in an extent. All right, next question. How often do people test the reg in cybersecurity? Test the regulations, or if you can clarify that would be great. I can try to speak on what I think you're going towards. So we have standard operating procedures. We have different tactics, techniques, and procedures that are getting updated constantly. If there are certain industry standards that are being set, or patches that are being pushed by Microsoft. Obviously, we have to do what we can with our own networks to keep up with the changes that are going on the civilian side. So as far as different regulations in cybersecurity, we still have a certain limit that we can work in, and ethics that we have to, or ethics that we have to abide by. But as far as keeping our standards and what we do up to date, is constantly changing. Yes. So I'm not going after, or I'm not protecting a Cisco router with whatever the NIST standard was from 2010. It's validating that they have updated to the most current, because that's what we have to do in order to continue working our operations in the Air Force. We have to make sure that anything connected to the internet is has those regulations in place. So I hope that answered your question. If not, if you can clarify and ask it again, that would be great. See, the next one we have. Do you think the skills you've obtained during your career in the Air Force would be beneficial to a more civilian role in cybersecurity? Definitely. We have a lot of people who will join the Air Force, and it's not just with cyber, but like you join the military, you do your service, you get your GI Bill, you can go and you do one contract and you get out, go to school, get the education to back up your experience. And I know a lot of people that shine in the civilian sector. We've had a couple people who worked on different types of programs with us who did not re-enlist, and instead they decided to either go guard or go civilian and come right back to work with us in the same exact room as a civilian. A lot of people retire and come right back. And it really is like the greatest thing about cyber is we're no longer in the era of having a degree or like a certification will get you, will be the only factor in getting you a job. A lot of these companies, they want to know, can you talk the talk and understand the capabilities with what's going on with the tools that you use or the systems that you use. One example, I had a mission where we were going to the base and we were not allowed to deploy our tools onto their network. Instead, we had to work with their Splunk engineers, and we didn't have any training in Splunk. But the Air Force was able to say, all right, cool, right? We have a need to do our job effectively by learning Splunk to assist these engineers. Went to 2 weeks of training, went out on a mission, and everything went smoothly because it's similar to a lot of the other tools that we use. One of the guys that we were with kept in contact with those engineers, and when he decided to separate, he's part of their Splunk network defense team. It really helps to know, or the experience that we get, because you really don't know how much experience you're prepared for on the outside. Like I said, that was 2 weeks of Splunk training, and I can probably pick it up right now to create rules and different dashboards and alerts. I've worked a lot with Elk, the Elk stack, with Kibana dashboards, Logstash indices, and different clusters. It was required for mission for me to tweak those things to a point where I had to do more research. I had to get more familiar with it to a point where, there'll probably be a couple of updates and I've been out of the game a little bit, but I can just pick it up right away if I decide to get out of the Air Force and be someone's, go into a security operations center on the outside where they need a Kibana engineer or an Elk stack engineer working with log beats, and the different beats portion of the Elk stack is, again, amazing. Working with the different tools in like Security Onion or a lot of the commercial side tools, a lot of these different a lot of these companies in the industry, they look for people who have experience in that and are able to write standard operating procedures on how to use those or how to train a team to do it. I'm instructing Windows right now, and the basics of like just the Windows operating system and how to script in PowerShell or how to read a batch script. Again, I said I'm not a great programmer, but if you give me a script in Python, in PowerShell, in C, well, maybe not C, but if you give me a script, I have been through enough. I've been around the block a couple times to identify, like, hey, this is what it's supposed to do. These are the effects that it's going to create. And something as simple as that, like a lot of these companies on the outside, whether you work for the Department of Defense or if you work in the private sector, a lot of them just need someone who knows how to talk the talk and has the experience so that they don't just look lost. The greatest thing, or it's kind of dark, the saddest thing about ransomware is that you really find out how a company struggles with their cybersecurity. But the greatest thing about ransomware is that a company will always need someone who knows how to prevent that from happening or how to respond to that from happening. Do you want to pay the security engineer $200,000 a year for salary, or do you want to pay the $2 million ransomware that attacked your company? So it's the skills that you get, especially with the Air Force Cyber, skills you get are a good baseline to progress into different certification paths, different security paths, different programming languages, different types of tools, you get a breadth of experience in a lot of areas where you can be a master of none or a master of one if you choose to do so, because you're going to be the guy or girl once you get out. That private sector or that company is going to need someone who knows how to do what you do. And I always encourage people, whether it's 4 years, 6 years, 20 years, 30, whatever, if you sign up, make sure you align your goals with what the Air Force offers. Do your job, do it great, and make sure you take advantage of the stuff that you get in or that you get while you're in. Because we do have people who go through this career field and they do the bare minimum, and when they get out, they are not well versed in a certain programming language, or they're not well versed in a certain tool or a certain program to get a job that they want. So they have to settle for what's available because it still requires work. I can teach you anything you want about PowerShell, but if you're just going to do the bare minimum, you're not going to be that Microsoft engineer for Procter & Gamble, something, I don't know. But there are many benefits of joining that prepare you for the outside. Like, knock on wood, I'm still planning on doing 20, but I do see the job market right now with my experience, with my education, with my certifications on what is the need currently. So I feel like I'm going to be good, but I can't speak for everyone unless you do the work. Okay, I'm glad Brian, I appreciate that I answered your question to the best of my ability. Have I seen military regulation standards conflict with choosing or utilizing open source technology? Yes. And I'm going to be strategic in how I answer this. So, just because something is available doesn't mean that we can use it. There's that cyber law, there's that training, there's the requirements of our mission. A lot of things have to be vetted before we just go straight to using it. Anything that we introduce to our weapon systems or anything we introduce to our networks from a weapon system, there's that risk analysis that has to go into it. There were lots of nifty tools when I went to Black Hat, DEF CON, and SANS security conferences. There are lots of stuff where they said, hey, we'll give you a free 30-day trial if you just sign up. Cool. I had to test that out on my own on my personal computer or throwaway laptop. There were a lot of things where it's like, hey, are you the guy to talk to if I want to make a contract with the Air Force to buy our stuff? It's like, I am not. There are project managers and there are teams dedicated to vetting the new hotness and seeing if we can test it out and use it full time. So let's say Cobalt Strike, like just an example, just something that I've researched and I've written a paper on before. Let's say Cobalt Strike, they decide that, hey, we have Cobalt Strike 2.0 and, this thing is open source. You just have to have a dedicated account to our open source Intel team, but you can use it. Cool. If that happens tomorrow, it's not a definite that we will use it. There will be teams that will say, all right, cool, let's test it out. Let's see what we can do, what kind of support we need to get. But it's not something that it's a definite. It could just be, oh, cool, that's awesome. We'll keep that in mind for the future. We're not going to use it. We're going to stick to what we have. So we don't always immediately grab whatever is open source right away. Granted, if there's something available through Microsoft or something that are the actual manufacturers of systems that we're using, it probably is a quicker process for that as well. But when in doubt, just go to Stack Overflow and figure out what program to use or how to rewrite your code to do what you want to do. Like it's, as far as open source technology, it's not immediate if we decide to use it. Granted, sprinkle that take that with a little grain of salt. It's not something that I am super well versed on, but I have not seen immediate action in my experience with open source technology that might seem like the new hotness. All right, next question. I'm not sure if there's any other questions right now, but I'm going to, I think there was one thing that I forgot to mention. I'm going to briefly touch on it before I wrap things up. So one of the biggest benefits I have of coming into the Air Force and being in with cyber is I've been fortunate enough to have experience on a lot of things and get the education to back it up. The training that I go through, we get lots of hands-on experience with both hardware and software. And we have the Community College of the Air Force that accredits our training into certain types of translatable education credits. I was able to finish 2 associate's degrees in the Air Force and then transfer to the university to get my bachelor's in cybersecurity. And because of that, it's a stepping stone for me to then pursue a master's in cyber operations. The training that I get has helped me pass a lot of courses in college because I was exposed to technical writing because of mission. I was exposed to vulnerability analysis because I used that Nessus tool in practice. I was able to set myself up for success just by doing my job in areas that I didn't think I would really progress in. Again, I lost focus when I was in college first time, but I was able to really knock it out of the park like while I've been in the Air Force and really align my goals up and set better plans for the next 5 years, 10 years down the line. In fact, like with Air Force tuition assistance, I was able to go to school essentially like for free because a lot of the classes were able to be reduced to meet the tuition assistance debt threshold, and a couple of things I paid out of pocket, but essentially got my degree for free, and my GI Bill I'm able to transfer to my daughter, so whenever she wants to go to school, she can have 3 years of college for free. So it's there's lots of benefits to the education side of it. And for my job, I've had to get a certification in forensics. So I have a forensic cert, and I'm set up to be a forensic analyst when I get out. I've gone through different pen testing courses, so I know how to identify cyber threat or how to emulate cyber threats if I want to be a pen tester when I get out. I've done a lot of defensive techniques and management to be able to go into a security operations center, whether it's in Department of Defense or on the private sector when I get out. There's a lot of things that I have been able to do because I just signed up and I said yes on the dotted line. Like it's amazing. Every time that I volunteer for something new, it set me up for success and got me experience that I didn't think I'd be prepared for. I think those were all of the, here we go. The last question. Nice. Was one piece of advice that you would share with someone interested in the Air Force? I think I kind of touched on it, but I will say it explicitly, like coding language. If it's not explicit, then, the code just does whatever. If you want to join the Air Force, again, visit airforce.com, talk to a recruiter if you're not able to go to the website, but understand what your goals are in life and understand what's going to be asked of you when you join the military. When I joined, I specifically chose the Air Force because I knew that I wanted to support, I wanted to get a job in STEM, in a STEM career field, and I wanted to set myself up with experience to come out. I didn't think I was going to sign another contract, and here I am almost 10 years later, and I'm still loving it. And it's because I'm finding the different things that the Air Force is offering that is aligning with my personal goals. So if you join because you just want to get free college and then get out, cool. Everyone has their own goals. Do work when you get in, because there are ways that you can set yourself up for failure if you're not focused while you're in. It is a commitment, and it is something that you have to be serious about once you join. Specifically, if you come into my schoolhouse, if you're not passionate about it, it will show, and you will fail. And I will be happy to help you retake a test, or I'll be happy to kind of coach you on stuff. But if it's not in your heart, if it's not something that you're passionate about, you're out. So if you're serious, if you're interested in the Air Force, talk to your recruiter, see what jobs are available. I wouldn't settle for anything that doesn't align with your goals. If you're just unsure and you want to come in with whatever job, cool. Use that as a stepping stone to figure out how you can work from there. Again, my career field is retrain only. So if you want to just join just to get out whatever current situation you're in, do it, and then make sure you know what that time frame is so that you come into this career field. Work towards your craft in different languages or different operating systems, and again, just reevaluate at the end of every year. Is this what I signed up for? Is this something I'm serious about? What am I preparing myself for if I get out in 20 or if I get out in 10? If you're interested in joining the Air Force, just know that it's a great community to be a part of, and it is an amazing opportunity to set you up for different things in life, whether you are going to retire or just use it as a stepping stone to another chapter in your life. Hopefully that was specific enough and explicit enough to answer that question. If we can go to the next slide. So to summarize what we talked about today, I went over my background with my introduction, talked a little bit about the United States Cyber Command and how we operate in the Air Force underneath the orders and the tasks that are assigned to us from the U.S. Cybercom. Talk briefly about what my role is here at the 333rd Training Squadron. I forgot to mention, this is my third time to Keesler Air Force Base. I came here for the Cyber Transport Systems Schoolhouse. I came back to retrain into cyber warfare, and now I'm back again as a cyber warfare operations instructor. So like this is pretty funny. Like just my career just keeps bringing me back to this one place to keep learning and keep thriving in cyber. So I talked about what we go over in the 333 Training Squadron, and then I briefly touched on the defensive and cyber operations aspect of it. Again, double-sided coin. You can't just be a script kiddie and expect to be awesome at cyber. You can only get so far without having that discipline and training. And if there are no more questions, I appreciate you all for having me. I appreciate the Major League Hacking for inviting me out. This is an amazing opportunity that you all are experiencing or are able to be a part of. And if there's any questions that I have not been able to answer correctly, or if you are so curious about this, please visit airforce.com and talk to a recruiter to see what your options are for joining the cyber side of Air Force. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thanks so much, Technical Sergeant Jason Massard. I think everyone really got what they came for, which was just a ton of information on all of the career opportunities available, in cybersecurity when it comes to the Air Force. Thank you so much for lending your expertise. And once again, I hope y'all had a great time. We'll catch you next time. Okay.